AMC Theater's position is a little shaky at the moment. They are definitely in a lot of trouble. Even I will admit that as a shareholder of the movie theater chain. The theaters have been closed for months. They're right now hopefully talking about opening in July, but they're not going to have any new movies really. They're not going to have an audience that is willing to come back right away. Heck, we might even have a situation where they can only sell every third seat or so. So, to say that AMC Theaters is in a good position is probably not being honest. It's probably an outright lie, in fact. But here's the thing. I still have a hard time imagining that AMC Theaters will go completely out of business. I think there's too many people who have too much at stake if AMC goes under. Coca-Cola certainly loses a lot of business. The candy makers, theaters like the third largest candy buyers in the world. If AMC goes under, then the candy people have to find new people to buy their candy, which is going to be difficult. Never mind the studios. However, what company that might actually help AMC out is China's Wanda Group. Now, who is Wanda Group? Well, to be perfectly blunt, Wanda Group was a company that used to own AMC. They bought it outright several years ago, and then when Trump got elected and he made it more difficult for Chinese investors to outright own American companies, they started diverging their interest, and they've diverged a lot of that interest. However, they are still the number one shareholder of AMC. I believe they own 38%. And as such, they have a lot to lose personally if AMC goes under. What's more, they stoked the fires that they might help AMC out by saying that rumors of the bankruptcy were just that, rumors. So either they know something we don't, or they're just trying to deflect the bad news and prevent the stock from going too much lower. Either option is perfectly logical to think. But the Hollywood Reporter has this article about Wanda Group and asks a frank question: what realistically can happen? Like, can they actually bail out AMC? So here's the thing. The emerging narrative on Wall Street about AMC, largest circus, the company brink of bankruptcy, yada yada. So here's where it's arguing. Aaron has always insisted that AMC had Wanda's express support, but acted with operational independence from Beijing. Still, the Chinese conglomerate, which was then the Middle Night's most successful commercial property developer, was always thought to be encouraging the buying spree. Should AMC run into trouble, it is assumed that Wanda, with its seemingly unlimited access to capital in China, would provide a backstop. How about now? The severity of AMC's current challenges is of little doubt. The firm's shares have lost 70% of their value this year, and much of its $4.9 billion debt is trading at about 30 cents on the dollar. With the virus shutting down most of Europe and North America, AMC has been forced to shutter more than 1,000 theaters and furlough all of its 24,000 staff in the U.S., including 600 corporate employees as well as Aaron, although I think that's more of a, what's the term? A symbolic gesture, if you will, because it's not like Aaron isn't going to be working. The company's debt woes are compounded by quarterly commitments of around $250 million for rent at its theater's location. If Wanda wants to play the White Knight, though, there are a myriad of factors possibly blocking it from doing so, analysts say. One of the first is that Wanda has their own financial distress to deal with back in China. There are existing restrictions on moving foreign currency out of the country and injecting money into an American company while China is trying to make its own recovery. That could be politically unpalatable in the current environment. So what that basically means is, let's take it one by one. Wanda has its own financial distress to deal with back in China. Everyone's suffering from this except for Amazon. Amazon's the one company that is not hurting at all from this pandemic. But otherwise, everyone is hurting, Wanda included. So, they might have their own things to worry about right now. That aside, though, because here's the thing, with a 38% stake in AMC, that's certainly enough to be worth looking at from their perspective. So, what would the next problem be? Well, there are existing restrictions on moving foreign currency out of the country. that's moving money out of China into America. The Chinese government, especially right now, because keep in mind, China is run by a Communist Party, and they want to have as much of that money in their country. Keep in mind, this is the country that when Kung Fu Panda came out, the Chinese government got really upset because they were like, why couldn't we make that movie? Like, why did America make that movie? Why didn't we make it? So they just have that mindset. They're a nationalistic country. And as a result, when you're talking about a crisis where they're trying to recover and they need to rebuild their economy, the idea of moving money out of China and into America, that might not necessarily sit well with their government, so they might not allow that to happen. Now, and of course, the whole injecting money into an American company while China is trying to make its own recovery, that could be politically unpalatable. Basically, that means, because I think and I'm not a political commentator channel, I'm not like the biggest expert on China, but I believe if I understand this properly, that when you make big investments in American companies, they have to kind of get the Chinese Communist Party to approve that, and they might not be willing to approve that right now, especially as tensions are high. Their economy is hurting. Donald Trump is not popular in China, certainly not with Xi Jinping, and they would want that money to stay in China. So, and what's ironic though is, of course, Wanda basically put AMC in this position, because beginning around 2015, Wanda embarked on a breathless global buying blitz, snapping up Burbank-based Legendary Entertainment for the questionable sum of $3.5 billion, building China's largest domestic film studio complex and pouring billions into luxury real estate projects in Beverly Hills, London, Mandarin, Chicago, Sydney, and elsewhere. At the height of its acquisitions in late 2016, Wanda's Wong, then China's richest man, boasted of wanting to buy equity stakes in all 6 of the major Hollywood studios and announced a rich $1 billion deal for Dick Clark Productions, producer of the Golden Globes. By the way, this is what people are like Midnight's Edge are talking about when they say like Hollywood studios are constantly chasing Chinese money. This man wanted to be part of Hollywood, and as a result, he put out like, hey, we're on a buying spree. We're interested in buying, and a lot of people who wanted to get their projects funded, started selling themselves. So here's the thing. Worried about capital flight and the quality of the international deals Chinese firms were doing, Beijing soon hit the brakes, instituting strict controls on currency outflows and limiting private conglomerates' ability to tap financing at state banks. Facing a huge sudden debt crunch as well as the umbrage of the powers that be in Beijing, Wong and Wanda reversed course, selling overseas holdings and even paring their domestic Chinese entertainment outlay, such as the huge movie studio in Qingdao and a network of amusement park developments, sold in a record-setting $9.3 billion deal. Wong's final deal for Dick Clark Productions was eventually scrapped, with Wanda forced to shell out a $50 million breakup fee. Since that period, Donald Trump's trade war with China has only further dampened enthusiasm in Beijing for outbound investment into the U.S. entertainment and media sectors. So, this is not a pretty picture, as they say, because Wanda does have a huge vested interest in making sure AMC does not go under. Now, again, they don't own the company anymore, but they own about 38% from what I understand, and that's almost half the company. So, if you're let's just say that AMC is worth $5 billion. I know it's not, but let's just say it's worth it. Well, then Wong stands to lose $2 billion if they go under, more or less. And that's not going to be good for him. He's not going to like that at all. So he probably would want to save the theaters, and he knows that eventually the business would come back and he could recoup his investment. Then maybe he can divert his investments a little bit more. But would the Chinese government want to do that? Probably not. So, also, here's another problem. Wanda also owns China's biggest domestic theater circuit, Wanda Cinema Line, plus a major production distribution company. And guess what? Those theaters are closed too. Everyone is hurting. As the article closed out, Wanda's chairman, Wong, is famous in China for his determination, but at every deal-making opportunity over the past 2 years, he has indicated a desire to drive down offshore equity holdings Just last month, Wanda Group's independently listed sports unit agreed to sell the Iron Man franchise, which is not the Marvel character. I think it's like a fitness thing, for $730 million after buying it for $650 million in 2015. So, yeah, he profited about $80 million. That's nice. There's always a possibility of a takeout when the equity becomes this depressed, says Macquarie Capital analyst Chad Baina, noting how far AMC's market value has fallen. But given that Wanda has been diluting themselves during the last year, such as the Silver Lake sale of AMC shares, we don't see this happening. So the Hollywood Reporter, at least, doesn't believe that Wanda will bail out AMC. And I don't think so either. I kind of agree. The logistics are too messy at the moment. They're way too messy. We're at a point where everyone's hurting. No one's going to be in a buying spree except Amazon. Again, keep an eye on Amazon. They're Skynet, I tell you. I think if AMC is going to get saved, bankruptcy might be the way they have to do it. They will restructure. They will sell off some underperforming properties. And I think if it even gets to the point where like they can't do it, then the studios will probably come up with a plan to save the theaters. Heck, they might be coming up with a plan right now to how to help the theaters build themselves back up a little bit so that they have theaters to show Black Widow and Tenet and Soul and James Bond. Like, they need someplace to show these movies. The Trolls World Tour digital thing broke records, but it didn't do what Universal hoped. I mean, we don't exactly know how much they got, but if the inside source for the John Campus shows to be believed, they made about $24 million or so, which is impressive. But, and even when you consider that they're keeping most of that money, it probably would have made $50 million at the box office, and it could have gone on to have a healthy run, and then they could have had some DVD and Blu-ray sales, and then they could have attracted people to go to the streaming service after it was all said and done. Theaters are still a big key in how all these studios make money. And while a lot of people look at the shutdown and say, I think this is going to kill the theaters because people are just going to like watching things at home, I think the opposite is true. I'm noticing people are totally missing the movie theaters right now. I think the fact that all of these articles and videos about the doom of the movie theaters are getting so many views and comments shows that people actually really are concerned that it's going away. And as the studios have now had a chance to finally test the streaming prices, even if they keep like 80% of it as opposed to 50% of it, is not enough to make that a viable option right now. So I believe AMC theaters will be saved by someone. It might not be Wanda Group, but someone will save it. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave this video. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.